Alright, what's up, chat? Today we're going to be going through my previous video on CitizenCon and the predictions and what I was hoping to see in CitizenCon, and we're going to kind of react to it and kind of give myself a review as we go through it. Let's get into it.
CitizenCon 2025 is a critical year every year where CIG has to decide how to publicly show what's going on in Star Citizen. They've made two choices this year that I think should set the expectation of how this particular CitizenCon is going to go. In this video, we're going to explore what, in my opinion, CitizenCon needs to talk or show to be a success in my book. Choice number one is a decision to make it online only, and short. At roughly 2 hours, that is not a long time to cover the silence of 2025. This means they need to bring their A game and not screw around during these 2 hours. No random chit chat, no rehashing what's already been shared, and just get straight to the point.
They did okay at this. On this, I'll give them a B. Or actually, I'll give them an A minus. Pretty much they didn't touch on the past at all, except for one minor segment on rehashing the story that's been told so far. I don't know, it probably took like 10 minutes, which is probably more than they needed to. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job of only looking forward.
Choice number two is the decision to make it only about Star Citizen. This choice especially will dictate how the next 6 to 12 months will go for Star Citizen. Given that Squadron 42 is this looming giant that lurks over CitizenCon, and really the development of Star Citizen as a whole, by not getting any news on Squadron 42, that tells us that we're getting close to the marketing campaign coming in. That also means that we are not at the point where work has stopped on Squadron 42, which means it will continue to affect the development of Star Citizen.
Nyx makes that interesting. Knowing that we get Nyx and knowing that we get Vanduul raids, I'm very curious to see how they tie in the Vanduul with what we see in the PU, with what we see in Squadron as well.
Something we need to keep in the back of our mind during this entire CitizenCon. So, let's now dig into what I believe are the most critical things we need to see at CitizenCon this year. Starting off with number one, we absolutely need to get a firm understanding of what feature sets have been worked on this past year and what their plan is to implement them starting very, very soon, ideally within 2025. Now, I think this one will happen because of engineering. It sounds like we're getting some degree of it coming in late 2025, but what about the rest of the features? Those are the looming questions.
Okay. On this, I give them a C. I think they did a very, very poor job of touching on features. The only real features we saw was crafting and instancing, and we saw a lot of instancing. Personally, I'm not a big fan, but I'm going to make a whole separate video on instancing and my thoughts on it probably in a couple weeks. So I'll reserve most of my thoughts for that video. But as of now, I'm trying to reserve judgment until I know a little bit more.
That I think are super important. The next and most important one is item recovery. This particular feature came into the game, is one of the worst they've come in with 2025 and potentially the past 3 or 4.
Zero, zilch, nada on item recovery. Need I say more?
Years. There is a concept in gaming called risk versus reward, and whether or not you're aware this is a thing in a lot of the games you play, the reality is it is. Most games have a risk versus reward system, and when you, as a player, don't have enough risk and the reward is too high, you will get burnt out and it will get stale very quickly. Now the same can be said for the opposite. When the risk is too high and the reward is too low, you won't even engage in it. Every game you play needs to find this perfect balance of risk versus reward. Now for some, that can come in the form of time. How much time did you spend to accomplish your goal? For others, it might look like how dangerous was this? Maybe you can complete it in 5 minutes, but is that the most dangerous 5 minutes of your week? Those are the deciding factors on the success of a lot of the games that we see out in the world today. Star Citizen has struggled with this up to this point, and it became very apparent with the introduction to item recovery. Item recovery essentially takes majority of the risk out of the game but keeps the reward the same. The result of this is a lot of the amazing content CIG has developed this year now feels stale fairly quickly because the risk is not there. It has also created tremendous bloat on the third-party player trade market because now nobody loses anything. We absolutely
That all stays true, and they talked about none of it.
need to see concrete information on what is coming with item recovery during CitizenCon.
F. How does Face Clan do it? I forget. I don't know. F. F fail. 0.
Next up, we want to see very, very little on ships. This show is only 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, 2 hours 15. And basically, all CIG has done this year is showcase
It did come in at about 2.5 hours, which I did like, and it felt pretty long.
ships. We've gotten more Inside Star Citizens behind the ships than we have Inside Star Citizens with information. We do not need to know what's going on in the ship department as much as I love ships and John Crew. I know we all want to see the Perseus and the Ironclad, but let's be honest, we all know that's the purpose of IAE and Invictus Launch Week. This is something they need to spend very, very little time on, but we all know it's coming. Now, one of the things I think we are...
Okay, let's talk about chips for a second. They took a very interesting method on ships this year. No concepts, which I'm a big fan of, but they only showed us 3 ships. Last year, they gave us this really cool graphic where they like blacked out all these ships that they were planning on releasing in 2025. And we got, I think, all but 1, or maybe all but 2. There's a lot. And we now have no idea what's coming in 2026 other than what the monthly report suggests. Like, we know the Kraken is in development, may or may not come in 2026. The Perseus is dropping at IAE. We have the Ironclad. We've got a bunch of mystery ships. We've got the Hull B, and I'm sure there's a couple others I'm missing. And I wish we got a little bit more of a teaser of what's coming. I did not love how much time they spent on 3 ships that personally I could not have cared less about. The Paladin, the Grey Shiv, and the Stinger. The Stinger is probably the coolest one, although I personally don't have a huge use for it, so I won't use it very much, but I do think it looks cool.
less likely to see, but I want to see, is an update on base building and crafting, and ideally an in-engine working version of both, or at a minimum crafting. If we don't get this, it's not a make or break, but I do think it is a critical thing given the importance and kind of weight it has on the game.
Okay. Base building, 0. Zilch. I don't even know if they use the words base building. Crafting, they did say we are getting, in the tech preview, their hope and intention is the end of 2025. That's going to be very interesting considering they also want to get engineering in the tech preview in 2025. And it's late October and we still don't have a tech preview. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go. And we're also getting crafting in a very limited form. CIG said they were done with this whole tier 0 crap, but we've now gotten tier 0 item recovery and basically tier 0 crafting coming up. So I don't really know how I feel about that one. On this one, I'm going to give them a C because I got sort of half. We're getting a very underbaked crafting though.
And continuing to see updates on this would be very, very helpful for morale, I believe. Next up, and I believe this one is critical, is an update to player count. Based on what we've been seeing, it seems like we might be getting Nyx sooner than we initially thought, which is awesome. But that comes with some downsides. By adding a 3rd star system into the game, you continue to spread players out. And spreading players out in a large-scale MMO is never a good thing, unless you continue to inject new players into the experience.
Okay. So we are getting Nyx. We're getting Nyx in November, which is great. Depending on when you watch this, it may already be out. But we're getting a very half-baked Nyx. Not even half, really. There's no planets. So I don't even know if you can call that baked at all. But we're getting Nyx. We're getting Levski. We're going to have some missions to do. There's going to be some Vandal raids. It's going to be cool. It's going to be exciting. It's another jump point. I think they're doing a jump point in Stanton, but they're going to remove it once Castra comes out, I believe. And yeah, I don't know. The fact that they did not mention an increase in player count was concerning. In my opinion, we cannot have Nyx and still have 650 players in the Shard. I mean, that's just way too much space for 650 players who are going to spread out. So I desperately hope that the way this whole new server mesh system is going to work is that we don't take servers from Pyro and Stanton and give them to Nyx. I hope we add new ones into the Shard, because I believe we're running on a 10 server Shard right now. Ideally, we move up into like a 15 server Shard, and then we can throw in another 200 players or 300, 400 players. If we can break 1,000 players by the end of 2025, golden. That is a trajectory I can get on board. I am not going to be happy if we get Nyx and we don't get any new players. We already struggle with seeing enough players as it is.
We already struggle as it is with 600 players in Pyro and Stanton with the universe feeling full. Because AI cannot travel around very well, it oftentimes feels like you are alone unless you are going to specific spots that frequently have players, like PvP hotspots like a Hathor type location. This is very critical. Ideally, we do not want to see Nyx come into the game unless we are pushing a 1,000 player mark, because we need players. We need interaction, and a player-driven game will keep this game alive. And if players do not have the opportunity to interact with each other day to day, they will eventually burn out. And you need this for player retention. Now, those are some of my biggest points. These next ones are make or breaks for me personally, and may not be a make or break for the community. Bounty Hunting version 2. This particular feature set went really quiet in late 2023 when we were seeing some gray box footage of things they were working on. Things like remodeling space stations and remodeling certain ships like the Hawk, and FPS related gameplay at CitizenCon where we got to see those cool handcuff looking things. Since then we've heard virtually nothing.
We still heard absolutely nothing. But during CitizenCon, we did see footage of them firing that like taser looking thing. I forget the name of it. And that was supposed to come with bounty hunting. So I'll give them a D-.
And I remember during this time that one of the key reasons we were being held back from bounty hunting was server meshing. Well, now we have server meshing, and I'm hoping we get an update, especially because we keep seeing updates to AI nav meshes, I believe they're called, in order to allow NPCs to travel from place to place and get into vehicles and get out of vehicles dynamically. This is a key factor, especially for the PvE portion of bounty hunting, as NPCs need to be able to travel from one location to the other, creating a sense of a chase. This is something I'm particularly very excited about. While I don't do very much PvE, I do a lot of PvP, and currently the bounty system is very meh. It oftentimes can be very boring, and having a god marker above someone's head is not very exciting, and it feels kind of too easy to a degree. Next up is a player trade system. We know for a fact that they're reworking things like the inventory system, organization tools, party systems, your Mobi-Glass, and developing new apps and tools.
0, 0, 0, 0. No social tools. No player trade system. Not even a mention of it. Except for at the very end by Chris Roberts. when he like tries to like tell us that it's still a high priority and in active development, whatever that means. I thought Squadron 42 was in active development, and Chris has been saying it's coming out for a decade, so whatever that means.
Tools to make your day-to-day organization much easier to manage, and also your daily play sessions with your friends that much easier to set up and do. But something that I think has a bigger impact than all of these is a functional player trade system similar to how we see in games like Escape from Tarkov, which have a dynamic and player-run flea market type system where players can dynamically buy and sell items, and the price of those items is dictated by simple supply and demand models. This is one of the key reasons I enjoy Escape from Tarkov, as it creates a very fun game loop of finding rare items and then getting to quickly turn around and sell them for large amounts of money, and doing it all in-game. There's no third-party tools required. Now, while I am not an industrial player, I absolutely can see the value in having industrial players in a game like Star Citizen. Even today, I get to interact with industrial players for the large-scale events that me and my org get to do. I oftentimes get to have them bring certain items or find certain things for me, or handle portions of my events where they can do the industrial logistics side of them. This only grows and becomes more impactful with things like a player trade system. And I hope that is an in-person location you visit and not something that you run solely out of the mobiGlas. And maybe it's like every major landing zone. That could be kind of cool. Some smaller features I like to see talked about are what happens when you log in and log out. Group bed logging and the general login logout system, I think, is another feature I'd like to see an update on. And also the new inventory system. Currently, I think the inventory is bad, but it's usable. And I think a new inventory system that's much more refined with an updated UI and, most importantly, easier to understand for a new player is extremely critical in getting new players to both play the game and also stay playing the game. Those are some of my features and critical hits that I think CitizenCon needs to hit. Now I'm curious what others are important to you, as I understand I am coming at this from a combat perspective and especially a PvP perspective. So what other ones are important to you? And I'm sure I'm missing some of the key ones that you guys might really enjoy, like the new structural salvage updates and mining and cargo and economy.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Salvage, we heard nothing. But Nyx does seem to have a very heavy focus on mining. Now, they did say we're going to be getting a lot of mining content in Nyx, but not a lot of mining features. So I don't know if that's just the same mining we already have, or if it's talking about like how Planet took V5 with Genesis is going to start like overhauling how they scatter resources around planets, because that might answer some of those questions. And we also desperately need some more depth to mining. Salvage too, honestly, both of those feel very underwhelming to me personally, but yeah, we didn't see very much about that either.
Let me know in the comments which ones you guys value and which ones you don't necessarily agree with. I will make another video next week reacting to this video, and we will go through and see which ones I hit on and which ones I missed. So be on the lookout for that, coming early next week. And I can't wait to see what happens on Saturday, and I'm excited for all of us, as I hope it's a time that is very well spent and meaningful for the community. We are currently in an age where the divisiveness between players loving the game and hating the game.
Okay, the rest is me just rambling on. So, as I'm reviewing this, I give CitizenCon I'll give it a C. A C grade in regards to this video. Now, my personal score for CitizenCon is like a B minus. I think CitizenCon surprised me with some of that instancing stuff they were showing, like the tactical strike groups. That got me feeling some kind of way. That was awesome. I'm very excited to see what they do with that. Rockcracker was hit or miss for me. It's basically just ship Hathor, which felt kind of underwhelming to me. Also, the Van Duel was exciting, and I'm curious to see how it goes, but there was no mention of any FPS form of the Van Duel. So I think it's just gonna feel like any other PvE fight, except for they're in Van Duel ships. But the problem is, and this is why I don't actually like that CIG sells alien ships, is it takes away some of the specialness of those ships. Like, I own, or I don't own, I can fly a blade, I can fly a stinger, a scythe. Scythe I actually do have right now. And so the fact that I can fly those makes it a lot less exciting when I'm going to run into them randomly. And it's just going to not really feel like the Van Duel to me. I don't think it's really going to feel like a Van Duel until we see that capital ship or we see them in FPS gameplay. So, yeah. Overall, I'd say B minus. Nyx is going to be awesome. I'm excited to see what it brings. I'm not really excited for the November release. I'm more like excited for like mid 2026 when some of this other stuff comes online. But yeah, I give it like a B minus, and in comparison to this video, I give it like a C, probably even a C minus, because they hit very few of the things I was hoping to see at CitizenCon. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. If you guys think I'm scoring badly on this, or it should be more harsh. But I think it's a fair score given what I said in this video. So we'll be doing lots more React content coming up. So keep an eye out on the YouTube and the Twitter where I share all that stuff. And also join the Discord as well. Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.